Hi, welcome to Come Alive Long Beach's volunteer and instructor training. My name is Angelica. I am the founder and director of Come Alive Long Beach. I will be giving you the training in a more succinct way. So our social worker did give the training and it was recorded. Unfortunately, there was an issue with the volume. So I get to give it to you guys personally. So we will make this as focused as possible, but we will cover all the fields. I'll give you a little bit of background on Come Alive for those of you who it is your first year participating or instructing. Thank you guys for joining us. We are very excited to have you be a part of this summer. We have 9 amazing subjects lined up for this summer. Some of those include STEM, photography, cooking, dance, famous artists, cultural arts, and a few others. We have 9 total, but those are the ones that come off that I can remember directly from my notes. And so we have 9 instructors who will be teaching these classes. Camp is 3 days a week, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from 10 a.m. until 3:30 p.m. Volunteers and instructors commit to 9:30 a.m. Instructors 9:30 a.m. to 2:15 p.m. and volunteers 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. And so the way that the classes look each day is there are 3 classes scheduled per day. So Tuesdays would be photography, Wednesdays would be cooking, Thursdays would be dance, and those classes are set for each week, so the schedule is the same. The students rotate in groups. They're separated into groups by age, so ages 6 to 9, 10 to 12, 13 to 15 roughly. It's always adjusted based on who registers for that summer. And so the students interact with that discipline and the instructor based on their learning levels. So group 1 will go through, learn photography, then they'll rotate to the next class, and constantly there's a class going on. We do provide lunch and snack for volunteers and instructors, so you are welcome to eat with us during camp. We make enough so that you can join us, so please do. If you need to just take a plate and take it back to your room to have some downtime while the students are on break, please feel free to do so. The menu is set, so we don't allow for any dietary restrictions. We are careful not to prepare anything that has any kind of nut contamination or inclusion or anything like that, because we do have several students, especially this year, several students who are allergic to nuts, so that won't be an issue. But there is meat in the recipes, and gluten, and just a lot of things that now a lot of people have restrictions over. So you're welcome to bring your own food, go off campus to grab food if you need to. Just please be sure to be back on time for your next class. So the schedule looks like the students come in around 10 o'clock. You will already have been on campus for about a half an hour setting up your class, getting it ready, having everything in place that needs to be in place, all supplies in place, and the students will start checking in at 10. There are volunteers who can help you set up your class, and then there are volunteers who are supervising the students in the main room. So they are giving them name tags, they're checking them in, they're going through the process of getting them introduced to everybody, getting them interacted in games and icebreakers, and helping them to feel connected and safe and willing to participate in all that the day has in store. Right after the students check in, there is the first class. So on the back of your name tags, all instructors will have name tags, and on the back of your name tags will be a schedule of the day so that you're constantly on track with what time classes start and end, and you can reference that. And then also volunteers, you'll have it on your name tag. So when you first come, I should have mentioned that first. When you first come, go ahead and check in at the check-in table so we know that all the instructors are present. You'll get a name badge to wear for the day. It'll say Miss or Mr. and your first name. We want it casual, but we still want a level of respect. So the students call me Miss Angelica. They may call you Mr. Bob, Miss Susan, that sort of thing. And we just encourage that to create a sense of respect. And the students then, rotate for first class, go to lunch, second and third class, and then they have their snack. So you're welcome to join us for all the meals, like I said. Those who are volunteering, your role looks like you get to be with the students throughout the day. So you are assigned to a group of students. Maybe it's group A, the youngest, group B, the middle-aged students, or group C, the eldest students. And you are pretty much their chaperone, their buddy, their mentor, their supervisor in that group. You'll have 2 to 3 other volunteers helping you as well. You'll have up to 20 students. And then when you're in class, you have the instructors. Some instructors have more than one teaching at a time, so then you can have up to 5, 6 adults for all the students. We offer support, where extra support where it's needed. So students who we recruit about 8 volunteers per day. So of the 8 that participate, 2 are assigned to each group, and then 1 may be helping in the kitchen preparing lunch with our lunch cook. And so as a volunteer, you're helping the students with their projects. You are engaging with them, you're talking to them, you're getting to know them, you're establishing a relationship with them, because you get to be with these students throughout the day. And then if you have signed up for multiple days of volunteering throughout the course of the month during camp. And so you're with the students in their classes, you're learning right alongside them. If there's time, a lot of times volunteers get to do the projects with the students. The priority is always the students. So that's one thing that we do tell the volunteers is please make sure you focus on the kids and that they complete their projects before you start yours, or as you're doing yours, make sure that they're getting theirs complete and you're not focused on your own project. The projects that are lined up every summer are so amazing. Sometimes we even have volunteers who take supplies home to complete the project on their own because they just love the idea so much. We aim to create an engaging program every summer for our kids, so we love especially that feedback from our volunteers. But like we always say, you'll hear it a lot around camp, for the kids, for the kids. Everything that we do is for the kids. And so with attitudes, we always say, like, you're here for the students. So regardless of what happened before you got to camp, be present with the kids, focus on them, focus on their experience, and just let that be why you're there, and not for any reasons that might revolve around yourself, or bringing in your stress when you're interacting with the kids. We ask that you don't do that, because we want it to be a safe space, and we want them to feel welcome, connected, loved on, supported, encouraged, and like we want to be there with them. The idea behind Come Alive was to create it in a way where there was intention behind the programs and intention behind the relationship building with the students. There are several summer programs that are available. Many of them are free. My first job was working with the city of Long Beach, and we offered summer programs. And then growing up in the city of Long Beach, there were summer programs that were free. They were drop-in style. The staff was miserable. They didn't want to be there. You could feel it as a student. The lunches were terrible. The projects were boring, or not age appropriate for the older students. And it just wasn't effective. And so Come Alive was created to support families, especially from under-resourced neighborhoods, to give them quality programming at an affordable rate. It's $25 for the month. We have donations that come in, grants, sponsors, and then of course our amazing volunteers, our instructors volunteer their time generously. So all of this contributes to allow us to keep the cost to families at a minimal. We still do have families who need scholarship for camp, even at the $25 rate, and we have amazing people who contribute towards the scholarships each year to make sure that every student who is interested and can participate for the full summer is able to. So that's a little bit about Come Alive. If you needed a little bit more information, you were diving in, but you didn't fully have the picture, that's what it is. We welcome students ages 6 to 15, and it's just an incredible time for us to connect with them, to teach them, to pass on art disciplines to them, inspire them, and be a resource to families in the neighborhood, and make sure that kids get to be kids during the summer and they're not stuck in the house alone, older siblings watching younger siblings, and that they're getting something out of their summer, and that parents are able to empower their kids by enrolling them in Come Alive, and then also being able to afford it. How amazing as a parent to say, I got to send my student here, and this is some of the things that they got to do. One of our favorite things that we get to do with our kids is on the final day we do a color run, and that is just an explosion of color powder and water and craziness and fun, and you know, not a lot of people get to experience that, especially students, and we get to create that for them. And so these are just some of the things that parents get to rejoice about, that they get to send their kids to participate in. So that's Come Alive. We are going to jump into safety, expectations, roles, and interactions with the students. And so I have a list just to make sure that we don't miss anything, and I'll just run this down really fast. So one of the main things that we want to make sure to protect our volunteers, and then of course to protect our students, is that there are appropriate interactions with the students. And so one of the things that we always say is the kids should not be sitting in your lap. A lot of them will be very affectionate and grow attached to you, which is wonderful. It'll feel great to have that bond with them and to interact. But one of the things that we want to make sure is that you know, students aren't sitting in your lap, you know, there's not any kind of inappropriate touching. And so one of the things that we say is redirect them rather than reject them. So if little Susie jumps in your lap, little 6-year-old Susie jumps in your lap and says, oh, hi, help me, you know, you say, hey, you're a big girl, and you take Susie and you sit her in a chair next to you, you know, that's appropriate, and you're redirecting her. And so she knows that you still want to interact with her, you're still engaging with her, but you're not rejecting her. And so be mindful of that, especially males with females, opposite sex, that sort of thing. Make sure that, you know, there is that clear boundary, and that you are mindful that you are friendly with the students, and then keeping a respectable physical boundary with them. I have kids that run up to me all the time and give me a hug. You know, you give them a quick little side hug and they feel so loved. A lot of them don't get that sort of affection and attention, and so that's completely fine. We just want to make sure, you know, that they're a respectable time frame, you know, around the shoulders, that sort of thing, and not inappropriate in any way. For those who this is your first time, Come Alive does welcome students from the foster care system. So we work with agencies and social workers to bring in students who are currently in the foster care system. And that's important to know because we do have kids from sensitive backgrounds, and who may not understand boundaries, or may have experienced abuse and may overcompensate in ways. And we'll get into more of abuse and how to recognize that during this training. But that's something to be mindful about. And for that reason, we do ask that you do not take any photos or videos during camp. We have restrictions with that, with who can be photographed and videoed, and so you will see staff. So it's myself and interns, and then we will have a videographer and a photographer on campus during certain days who are cleared to take pictures. We screen those photos and videos to make sure that no students who are in foster care are photographed, and we post the ones without those students showing. This is for their safety, and then just to protect them. So there is a color code system that we use, the staff uses. I do not disclose who is in foster care and who is not. Some of our students are comfortable sharing that aspect of their life openly. Others are not comfortable at all and will not disclose for the duration of camp, and that is completely up to them. We color code, and so those who do registration in the morning and check students in, they are familiar with who is in foster care because their name tags are a different color. So we have a color code system for that. There's a couple colors so the kids can never figure out why they get green instead of blue, instead of red, instead of yellow. And so that's worked really well for us throughout the years, and we're able to then quickly identify based off of the color of the name tag, who cannot be shown in that photo. And so please do not take photos or videos. And for the photography instructors, we can talk more about that and what that looks like within your class. And then if you do want to repost anything, please feel free to follow us. We are on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, but we don't use that as much. Instagram and Facebook, you can find photos and videos that have already been pre-screened and that are okay to share. And you're welcome to share that, just to share about your experience and to let people know what you've been up to in the summer, because it will be a lot of fun and it'll be something that you'll want to share with your loved ones about. As far as restroom breaks, so we are in a school area and all the classes are right by each other and right next to the restroom. So there are no scheduled bathroom breaks. The students can go during the day anytime they need to. There is a quick break in between the rotation of classes should the students need to go to the restroom. Do not go to the restroom with one student. So if you ever go to the restroom, if a student ever says, Miss Angelica, I need to go to the restroom, you'll always include more students so that there's a group of students with you. If this protects them, this protects you, and you say, hey, who else needs to go to the restroom? Usually there will be 2, 3, 4, 5 kids who say, I need to go to the restroom. And so then you have your volunteers, you take your group. Your volunteers of those who need to use the restroom, you take your group and you let them go to the restroom. You just stand outside, wait till they're done, make sure everybody's okay, and then you bring them back into the room. If no one raises their hand that they need to go, you just say, hey Cynthia, come with me and Jane, we're gonna go to the restroom. And if they say why, just say, hey, just come on, and you can recruit a couple, 2 to 3 students. And you make sure that they go to the restroom and they can hang out with you outside if need be. But we just always want to make sure that it's in a group, again, to protect you and to protect the students. And it's all it's in an L shape. So everything is very close by, within 20 feet of each other. So that's not an issue for them to go during class time. One of the things that we also encourage instructors and volunteers in is the topics that you speak to the students about and how you get to know them. So as I mentioned, we do have kids who are in foster care, and for that reason, we encourage you to use general questions that won't dig too personally so that they can gain trust and familiarity. And then if they choose to disclose personal information about family, that's your go ahead that you can talk to them more, and always giving them the option of, hey, I'm gonna, you ask them the question and you say, hey, feel free, you don't have to answer if that makes you uncomfortable, but you'll be able to gauge it as you're interacting with them. And so one of the things that I like to say is, you don't ask them, so who brought you to camp, who signed you up, mom, dad, sister, brother, because some of them don't have these ties. Some of them may feel shame, embarrassment, fear, and close off. And so we want to create an atmosphere where they are comfortable and they feel welcome to share as much as possible according to where they're at, and not feel shut down because their family system may not look like one of their fellow students. And so some safe questions that you can ask them are, what are your favorite hobbies? Do you play any sports? What's been your favorite class so far? You can ask them what their favorite color is. These are things that get to know them and then open the door for them to share about more things about themselves. And then if down the line they do care to share about their life, they will. One of our classes that seems to evoke that the most out of our students is our writing classes. So we've had poetry and songwriting, and those have been really powerful for our students. And as young as 6, as old as 15, males, females, it hasn't mattered. they've really opened up and engaged with the prompts and the writing, and they share it, and it's just a very somber place, a sacred place too. Sometimes there's tears, sometimes there's laughter, but there's always just a unity that comes in those classes, because the students, through different mediums, are processing through feelings, getting in touch with themselves, their inner child. Some of them don't get the opportunity to have fun, or are in places where it's safe to be happy without fearing that it might all tumble down or be taken away from them. So that's something that you'll see as we're working with the students over the course of 4 weeks. Incredible transformation happens in 4 weeks with our students. You'll see students week 1 who are completely shut down, not engaged in any of the projects. Sometimes they can be a little mean to each other. By week 2 and 3, they're open arms. They've gravitated toward volunteers and staff. They want to be there, they don't want to leave. They're looking at like the end of camp coming up, and they're really sad. And so it's a great time to be in service through Come Alive, because we have a lot of students who are returning, many who are in foster care who are returning, that have already experienced 1 summer with us. And so we just encourage that, to reach out, to make connections with these students, because we bring in so many people from different backgrounds to inspire them of what's possible, so that they can see people who look like them, or even be exposed to opportunities they've not had before, or projects they've never even heard of, or subjects they've never heard of, just to help them dream big, dream forward, and just have a big idea for their lives and be inspired for their lives. So our 3 main rules for camp fall under, we call it the 3 R's. And usually when this is in person, I ask people like, what do you think the first R is? And everyone shouts out respect. And I say, what about the second R? And they say, I don't know. I'm like, respect. And they start laughing. And then I say, in the third R, I'm like, respect. And everyone catches on. So our 3 R's are respect, respect, and respect. And everything under the sun will fall under those 3 rules, because we say respect others, respect yourselves, and respect property. So each morning as the kids join in the main room, we go over with them what it looks like to respect others, to respect themselves, and to respect property. And we just encourage them that camp is made possible by people caring enough about them to buy supplies, to donate, to spend their time. And so we're respecting property by not breaking things, by not taking anything from the class that's not given to them to take home a final project. And then we're patient with each other, not taking from one another. We respect each other by listening when it's needed, and not talking when the instructor is talking, and picking up after ourselves. And we respect ourselves by having great attitudes, by using clean language, and by just participating. So 3 R's, respect, respect, and respect. And that's one of the things that we use to keep the students accountable throughout the day, as we let them know if there's something that they're doing. We say, hey, is that respecting blah, blah, blah? And we give them that question for them to reflect on themselves. A lot of times they'll self-correct and they'll say no, and you say good, and then you get to reaffirm them. You get to tell them like, great job, Joey, I'm so proud of you, thank you for respecting property, thank you for being aware of that. And so that's something that we do each morning too. We give shout outs to give positive reinforcement for the students. Some of them end up wanting shout outs, and so they'll do something in front of you to be like, hey, Miss Angelica, like, I'm cleaning the table. Hey, Miss Angelica, I'm sharing the pencils. And so it's fun to see them do that. They're learning it in their own way. We always let them know you're not doing it for the shout out, but we will shout you out to let you know we see you, we encourage you, thank you for abiding in the rules and having fun in a way that is helping everyone to have fun. Something else I like to share about that is that A lot of the students who have trouble need a lot of attention. So those who are struggling emotionally or for any reason or just not wanting to participate, a lot of times, you know, they get the focus. And so those who are following the rules kind of are quiet and fall to the side and think that we don't see them. And so I love giving shout outs to say, hey Ella, like I saw you doing this in class yesterday and I just wanted you to know, like, great job, way to respect others, so that they know that we know who they are, and that the kids who need extra support are not the only ones getting our attention. And then this helps them to reinforce the behaviors, feel included, feel seen and known, and feel a part of camp. So we're going to jump into mandated reporting, which is a huge chunk of what this training will be about as well. And so this is all to keep our students safe, because we have volunteers who come in from the community. We're on a church campus. There's a ton of kids. There's so many people, so many things happening, things that are happening at home with the kids that we may come across at camp. And so this is just to prepare the team, to keep everyone on the same page, and to make sure that we're looking out for the kids. Everything is for the kids. And so mandated reporting is if you come across any suspicious behavior or circumstances or anything like that, you are to report it, you know, when it involves a student, a minor. And so mandated reporters are teachers, police officers, clergy, firefighters, social workers, nurses, doctors, therapists, and bonus, something that our social worker tells us every year, is film developers, because sometimes people will develop film of underage students, and that's a red flag. So they're also mandated reporters. Anyone who works with students, so I am a mandated reporter. You would not be a mandated reporter just because you're volunteering. However, if there's anything that comes up, you would let me know and we would put a report in together. So that's how that works, is we would call the hotline and we would go through the prompts together. I would be there with you, but if you are the one that saw, heard, experienced the situation that raised suspicion, you would be the person who would go on record as reporting it. This is not you're not doing an assessment, you're not doing an investigation, you are just providing the authorities the information from your experience, and then they will go in and follow up about it. Sometimes it could be nothing, sometimes it could be something, but regardless, we always want to look out for the benefit of the child and the safety of the child. Something that I share in my trainings is that I have had to put in reports, and I worked with an agency that supported foster and adoptive parents. We gave trainings to support the parents in how to manage difficult situations that were particular to fostering and adopting. And we had a foster mother in the restroom, and I was in a stall, but it sounded like she had slapped one of the students. She was aggressive in the way she was talking, and it sounded like a slap. Although I didn't see it, it didn't sit well with me, and I approached my supervisor about it and let them know. This was a star-studded parent, showed up to every meeting, you know, was very involved, great, amazing, all these things, but it still didn't sit well with me. So I did put the report through as a mandated reporter, even against my supervisor's disapproval. It turns out that that foster mother had actually been abusing severely the 3 students who were in her care at the time. They were removed from her care, and she disassociated with that organization, that agency, and its programs following that. I share that because sometimes, even though we may be hesitant, we don't need to have we don't need to know for certain. They say 51% of if you think something is wrong, something happened, you just have a bad feeling, there's some sort of evidence for you to give you that suspicion, whether it's physical bruises that you might see, abnormal behavior, something the student may tell you, something you may witness yourself. Again, it's all for the student's benefit, so we'd rather be safe and overcautious. And so if there's ever anything that comes up, come to me immediately. The window to report is 36 hours from the time of suspicion. 36 hours of time of suspicion, and we'd either call Child Protective Services, so 1-800-540-4000, or we would call law enforcement, either or, depending on the severity of the situation. If we think the danger is immediate, of course, law enforcement to get the student removed, but we would always put in the report to Child Protective Services. So as someone who puts in the report, you are absolved of any liability if someone were to try and sue you or press charges against you, as long as it's not coming from a place of malice. Usually you'll see these situations among parents who are in dispute over custody, but as long as it's coming from a place of concern for the student and not in a place of retaliation in any way, or again, of malice, then you are absolved from any liability. Failure to report, this is there is civil and criminal liability, so it is a misdemeanor if you don't report it and then something happens to that student and it comes to pass that you knew and you had knowledge or suspicion that something was going on and did not report it. You do become liable. It's a misdemeanor, 6 months in jail, $1,000 fine. Any combination of the three is possible as well. So again, it's reasonable suspicion. Reasonable suspicion. So one of the things I want to read from the packet. So we actually get packets each year at the in-person training from the social worker, but I'm going through everything with you guys verbally, but I do want to read the reasonable suspicion quote that's included in here, because it's helpful to understand what that looks like. Reasonable suspicion that a child has been a victim of child abuse or neglect does not require certainty that a child has been abused and may be based on credible information from other individuals for the purpose of making a report. It is objectively reasonable for a person to entertain a suspicion based upon facts that could cause a reasonable person in a like position, drawing, when appropriate, on his or her training and experience, to suspect child abuse or neglect. So again, 51%, if 51% you suspect something, then please approach me and we will go through the steps to put in a report to protect that student. So types of child abuse. So the types of child abuse, the four main types, everything kind of falls under these four categories, are physical, sexual or exploitation, neglect, that could be general neglect or severe neglect, and emotional abuse. And so we can go over just a few things from each of those so that you're familiar with what that looks like. We're exposed to that by media and movies and things, but some indicators are very important to be mindful of as we are working with students, especially if this is your first time working with students in this capacity. So some physical abuse indicators can be any non-accidental physical injury, so damage to the skin and the skin surface tissues. So maybe that's bruises, abrasions, lacerations, bite marks, burns, pinches, handprints from being gripped too hard, any kind of damage, internal damage. Kids are very, very resilient. And of course, you have kids that play and run around, but anything, we say from the elbow down and knees down, that's appropriate because you're banging your knees and maybe hitting your arms. But anything between your knees and your torso, that's a cause for suspicion. Anything on the fleshy parts of the body, that's cause for suspicion. If there's any bruising, or if the student shows any discomfort with certain parts of their body, like they're in pain, that's cause for suspicion. And so one of the things that our social worker tells us is that if a student has a break in their wrist or in their arm, in their elbow, that is from abuse, because someone twisted them so hard that it broke, because that's not something that's easily broken. So be mindful of that. And then indicators, so a couple other things is just if the student is saying they have been abused, of course that raises suspicion. If there's any history, that would come up in the investigation on the side of the authorities. And if the injury is unusual for the age of the student, again, you know, kids get scratches and bruises and things like that, but if it's something that seems unlikely that they could have caused themselves, or the story doesn't match up, and they say, I fell off my bike, I fell down the stairs, and it doesn't match with the injury on their body, that's cause for suspicion. Or if there's any discrepancy in the explanation, or delay in seeking treatment, those are also red flags that there could be abuse going on. Sexual abuse would include rape, incest, sodomy, oral copulation, intentional masturbation in the presence of a child. So that is something, so some of the things that we talk about is sexualized behavior from a student. So if something is not age appropriate for them, they know too much, or it's unusual for their age and the way that they're interacting, there is suspicion that that could be from child abuse. Describing scenes of adults engaging in sex, describing in pornographic magazines or videos, if they're pregnant, you know, some of our older girls, you know, 13, 12, 11, if they're pregnant, those sorts of things, those are cause for suspicion. Some indicators of sexual abuse: inability to concentrate. A lot of these are general. There would be others. There would be other evidence that would support why we would feel it would be sexual abuse, because some of these can be explained by other reasons, but this is just some things. So inability to concentrate, sleep disturbances, drastic behavior changes, speech disorders, frightened of the parent or the caretaker, change in school performance, fears, phobias, compulsive behavior, overeating, undereating, attempting to act more mature, or regressive behavior. So they could be withdrawn, overly compliant, maybe poor hygiene, excessive bathing, poor peer relations, running away, antisocial, a lot of these different things. We have had students who experienced abuse in the past, not currently happening, but we do see the residual impact of those things in the way that they carry themselves and how they interact. And so we just want to make sure that if there is any current abuse going on, that we are reporting that immediately to protect the students. So neglect, I mentioned that there is general and severe neglect. So general neglect might look like, you know, they're messy, or maybe their clothes are not clean for that day, that sort of thing. Severe neglect would look like starvation, so the kids are not eating well, or, you know, there's no one home with them for days on end. That's neglect. So it's something that could or does result in harm of the child's welfare. So failure to provide adequate food, clothing, shelter, medical care, supervision. this falls under general neglect, and sometimes this just can be a cause from poverty, that the family is experiencing a lack in resources. If any of these conditions are severe enough to impact the child's health or safety or result in any injury to the child, it is considered to be severe neglect. There are some graphic pictures in the pamphlet of intentional severe neglect. So failure to provide these things: malnutrition, non-organic failure to thrive, where the caretaker willfully causes or permits the health or safety of the child to be endangered. So whether that's, they're cold for whatever reason, they're chained, or any of the more drastic stories that we hear about. Sometimes it can be hidden under the clothing and you're not aware of it. And so just things to be aware of, to think about, if anything seems suspicious about the child, just to watch out for. You would notice it in the way that they eat at lunch, if they're overeating, undereating, that sort of thing. Emotional abuse is harder to prove because there is no physical evidence for that. Verbal assault, belittling, screaming, threatening, blaming, using sarcasm. These are forms of emotional abuse. Domestic violence, emotional deprivation, constant family discord, just being in witness to these things causes emotional abuse. One of the ways that we help to get the attention of the kids is with that thought in mind, that we have students who come from very chaotic backgrounds. So we do not want to use techniques that would alarm them. So we don't yell at the students first and foremost. You will be, if that ever happens, you will be talked to. If it happens a second time, you will be asked to leave and not participate in camp again, because that is a huge no-no that we don't do. Our volunteers, our instructors, we don't yell at the students. So one of the ways that we do get the attention of the students, by and large, everyone uses it, the kids are familiar with it, is if you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. If you can hear me, clap 3 times. And we literally will do that. We can do that up to 10 times. You're just patient, you're calm, and you wait till they match you. So I don't yell it. I literally say, if you can hear me, clap once. And I'll walk over to different students. If you can hear me, clap twice. And I get their attention, and then they start getting each other's attention, and making sure that everyone's listening. But there's no need to raise your volume. There's no need to scream and, lose control, throw anything in any way. Again, because it could be a trigger and it's just inappropriate. So we use that. Some of our instructors have taught in the past and have their own methods that they use. That's fine, as long as it's in line with everything that we've said about respect and about being mindful to not alarm our students. So feel free to adapt that as well. The kids will be very, very, very familiar with it. We use it throughout camp, and it's an easy one to learn. If you can hear me, clap once. And this is something that you can use if they're not paying attention. If you're trying to give instructions and the class is getting too loud and you're not able to articulate it and get everyone to pay attention, you can just do that. So that's a great one. So please be mindful of that, that we do have students who come from places where any sort of volume raise in that way, any kind of yelling does come off, may trigger them, it may cause them to shut down. So that's why we use those techniques to support them to listen, but also support them in not creating a feeling of unsafety for them at camp. So again, other indicators of emotional abuse: withdrawn, depressed, apathetic. They can be clingy and maybe act out. Suffers from sleep, speech, or eating disorders, repetitive rhythmic motions, so rocking, whining, pinching, scabs. These are forms that maybe something else is going on. These are indicators. And so we just ask that as you guys are interacting with the students, if there's anything that comes up, that you would just, communicate that to me, let me know, because we want to make sure that our students are safe and that There is nothing, there's nothing out of place happening within their home. So this can be for our students who are in foster care, or even our students who are with their guardians or parents, just to be mindful of all of that. We do have students who may be a little sleep deprived here and there because they're shuttling between homes, and if we know the story in the background from the parents on that, we're aware of it. But if there's anything that you are concerned about, please talk to me. And if there's need for a report, we will put that report in together. I won't throw you into the deep end and leave you alone in that. We will do it together. I've only had to do one once, thankfully, but I am willing to do as many as is needed if there is a need for it in any issue. So that is everything that we covered. We went into more depth and gave more examples of what that looks like, but these are just things that we want all of our staff to be aware of ahead of time and be knowledgeable of. A few things that I also told everyone is that if you are an instructor and you have not given your supply list to me, please get that to me immediately. I want to get those purchased before the holiday so that they will arrive on time and there won't be a delay in their shipping. And then volunteers, or anyone, if you have not completed your background form, you will need to do that prior to starting as a volunteer for camp. So you should have already received an email or a hard copy of the background form, and you would return it to me. comealivelb@gmail.com, comealivelb@gmail.com. You'll scan a copy of the completed form to me. I'll forward that on to the person who processes it, and once I hear back that that has cleared, you will be all set. So these are the two things that are in place for you to start at camp, is to complete this training video and your background check. And then also we do camp t-shirts. This year we are excited to print our own t-shirts. We have an organization partnering with us to bring screen printing on campus in our famous artist class, and the kids will learn about print making and make their own camp shirts. I bought up a bunch of shirts I found on sale at Michael's, and so I got various sizes, but please send me your t-shirt size so that we can make sure to make your t-shirt for you, and you can have that as a memento for your service at camp. And also, everyone is welcome to participate on the last day of camp, whether or not you're scheduled to volunteer or instruct. It is a fabulous time. The kids are not broken up into groups. They all rotate together, and it's just an amazing time, and it's super fun, and you'll get to see the color run, and Domino sponsors our last day, so there's pizza, and it's just a really great time. So that is for August 1st, our last day. We call it our grand celebration. So that happens on August 1st. This year, it's a Thursday, and you are welcome to participate for an hour, 2 hours, the full day, whatever your schedule allows. But aside from that, thank you guys for your time and your commitment and your investment to be a part of our students' lives and to be a part of Come Alive's vision. We are thrilled for this summer. We cannot wait to have the kids experience everything that's in store for them. If there are any questions that you may have after this training, any clarity that you may need, please feel free to reach out to me. You can text me, you can call me, you can email me, any of the above, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Yeah, so I think that covers everything. You guys are amazing. I'm excited, and I will see you guys very soon. We start camp on July 9th, Tuesday, July 9th. That's just around the corner. And if there's anything that I need from you, I will reach out to you individually. But until then, have a safe and amazing 4th of July, getting to experience the freedom that we do. Get rest, and we will see you guys very soon for just a jam-packed summer full of fun. It'll be hard work. It will be worth it. Thank you guys so much.